Hey guys, it's a video on just doing a face cut here on a pretty large cedar, and my bar is only about 25 inches, so it's a smaller bar. We got to do 2 cuts on this thing to get the face out and the back cut done, and I just wanted to show you kind of that process. But before you go to fall any trees, make sure that again you're like trimming around that tree. Don't get yourself into a situation, and we've all done it, where you just start cutting the tree and you haven't trimmed up branches on the ground or ivy or some sort of vines or whatever that could catch your feet or prevent you from escape. Make sure you're trimming around the tree. The last thing you want to do is put yourself in a situation where a branch comes out of one of these dead trees. And this cedar is completely dead. A branch comes out of that tree and you see it coming as you're looking up, and you go to run and you trip over a limb or some vines or whatever, have your feet all tangled up, and you can't get away. You're gonna get hurt really bad or get killed. That's what happens. Most of the accidents or deaths happen pretty close to the stump. So just be really careful of that. Make sure that you're cleaning up around your tree before you start cutting. So here I'm setting up my face cut. There's a couple ways you can go about it. One of them is to make your flat cut first and then swing under your flat cut to make that angle cut for a conventional or a Humboldt, depending on what you're wanting to do. I suggest, if you're new to cutting and you haven't, you're not some production cutter, which these videos really aren't tailored for guys like that, because they're already very, very good at what they do. This is more for guys that haven't done a lot of cutting and are trying to match their cuts for their face cuts. It's a difficult thing to do, and it takes a lot of experience. So what I would suggest you do is start with your angle cut first, like I'm showing you here, where you put the bar in at the angle you want it to be at for your lower part of your face, whether it's a Humboldt or over the top for a conventional. And then all you need to do is look 90 degrees to your bar. So as you make that angle cut, you can already kind of feel where that tree is going to go, but it's not very precise. So what you do is, as you make the angle cut, you pull the bar out and you stand to the side of the tree and look down your gunning sights, just like you do with the flat cut, and gun it to where you want it to go. Once you have it aligned with where you want that tree to go, it's really easy. You just cut up and in, you dig in with your dogs and cut that whole face up, and then you just pull your saw out and make a flat cut. And it's so much easier to make that flat cut match an angle cut than it is to do the flat cut first and then swing up at an angle and try and match. A lot of times that gets completely messed up, and it actually is difficult to try and correct for someone that's new to cutting. So try out this technique. Once you get proficient with that, you can start swinging under to get your face cuts to match. So here we're boring into the tree, and the reason for that is this tree's pretty big for my bar. This is only like a 25-inch bar I'm using. So I'm boring into the face now, and I'm going to take this face in 2 separate sections, and you'll see this on really large trees that guys cut. It's a really efficient way of getting the face out and being able to look at the other half of your face as you're cutting it. So here I got half the face out. All I need to do is put my bar in again, just like I'm doing, and there's a couple ways you can cut it. I'm just going to rotate right around it, but you could actually just move the tip around to where it cuts through the tree. It's kind of hard to explain, but you don't have to do the method I'm doing here, is what I'm getting at. There's different ways of getting this face out, but all I need to do now is just follow that same angle I had over on the other side that's out. And the benefit of knocking half the face out is I can go back over there now, like I'm gonna do, and I can see exactly where my bar is in this cut. And it allows you to dial it in precisely so that you don't create like a Dutchman. You're cutting too far into your face. So see, I can look around, I can see where my bar is, and then I can keep cutting. If you don't have that half of the face out over there and you try and cut the whole thing up at once, there's a possibility you could end up messing up and cutting too deep on this side here. Now all you need to do is just clean up your face. You know, this is kind of a rough cut. Like you're trying to just rough out your face cut, and now you go back in and you make all those fine details of cleaning any little notches up in there, any ledges that you left, you just cut them out. So right here I've got the tip of my bar resting inside, and I'm just picking up the back of my saw to trim up all those little imperfections in there. If there's big chunks in there, you can take your axe and just knock them out like this. So now the face cut is all cleaned out. All I need to do is get down low enough where I can see exactly what angle I have on that face. And sometimes you have them at a little bit, maybe like one corner, like this left corner is a little higher than the right. Just get down there, put your bar up there, and you'll be able to visually check and match that angle that you need to have. Here I'm working my way around to that low side and cutting it up. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can do it the way I'm doing here, where you just bring your bar all the way around and you don't pull your saw out. There's another way where you pull your saw out, you go back over to that side, and you just cut up that whole side on that low side, and you never come back there. Then you go to your high side and you just start working away like I am here, all the way to the high side, and you know that other side of the tree is completely cut up. Your hinge is exactly where you want it to be. And then you come over here to this side where your hinge is thicker, and you start cutting it up, get your wedges in, and then you can kind of trim a little bit on this high side, but you don't ever go back to the low side. You should never need to go back there once it's cut up. So here I'm just checking for any movement in the top of the tree, and I'm not really seeing any. So I'm almost there. Now my hinge is pretty much where it needs to be. It's, 2-3 inches here on the cedar. You need to have thicker hinges on cedars because the hinge just breaks like glass. It's not like a fir tree that pulls a lot of fibers. So my hinge is set up. If that tree's not going, I'm not going to cut anymore. I'm just going to stop. So I'm going to get my wedges in. So here's what I was explaining with cutting up your tree by going over that low side. I went over there and I put my saw in, I cut up that side, and I'm trying to get it where it needs to be so I don't have to go back over there. Tree's not moving. We got a little bit of wind, and the lean is the opposite of where I want it to go, so it's on my back. So I need to wedge it to help this thing go over. But you'll see how powerful one wedge is. There's just one wedge that I'm putting in there, and the tree is already starting to move forward where I want it to be. And again, this is where you stop, don't cut anymore. If you got your hinge dialed in, don't cut anymore. I'm hearing some popping and cracking there, so as I was going to cut up this low side, the tree just started to go. There you go. So that big sliver that you see pulled right there, that was what I was going to cut towards the very end, and the tree just started to go without me needing to cut that. You have to be careful on fir trees that you don't leave real big posts, is what you call it, a post, like that. If you leave something like that on a fir tree, the wood does not break like it does on a cedar tree, and it can actually pull your tree off course by a significant amount. And it's just because you missed that. That's why I think that for someone that's kind of newer to cutting, it's a lot easier if you make sure you go to that low side, put the saw in, and visually look down your face cut, and then keep your bar, parallel to the face cut, and cut that whole corner up. So your low side will be completely cut up with the exact amount of hinge wood that you want. Take your saw out, walk back around, and then start cutting up your high side. So you don't really need to go back to that low side again. You can kind of leave that alone and then just cut up your high side. And now all you need to do is just start wedging. If you're getting to where that hinge is where you want it to be, don't cut anymore. Just put some wedges in there and start wedging the tree over. And you know that your low side is cut up. It's where you want it to be. You don't really need to go back there and visually inspect it again because it's done. Versus other methods of cutting where you really don't know if you left a post inside there by accident because your bar was too short. That can happen, and then your tree goes way off course, or it's not going, so you start cutting more and more in your hinge, and then the tree fails because you didn't realize there was like a post somewhere in the middle of that tree. If you guys are new to the channel and you don't know much about the Lord Jesus Christ or the Bible, Christianity as a whole, I encourage you to go take a look at the Bible introduction video and what is the gospel video on the channel as well. It'll help you out a lot. Anyway, guys, thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.